You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday. You know what that means. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hull, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Since it is Thursday, we are doing the Michigan Mailbag, in which we are chock full. Well, not quite chock full, but a good amount. I'm happy with it. So let's go ahead and start with our leaders and best, starting with James Crudup at James Crudup 6. Do you enjoy the spicy back and forth between Michigan and Ohio State's O-line commits? And obviously, you asked that around the same time that I was doing yesterday's episode, in which I devoted a fair amount of time to that. It's one of those things. If you're Ian Moore, you better back it up, right? Because the thing is he wants to point to, hey, I get to go, if everything goes well, I get to go in the first round of the draft. Hey, Ohio State's got a couple guys going in the first round of the draft. That's all good and well, but how do they do against Michigan, right? The offensive line for Ohio State has done well, except for against the better defensive lines and all of that kind of stuff. So it's you can have your guys back, but you better be able to back up everything that you are saying at this moment. So Michigan clearly has things kind of built. It doesn't really matter. Rankings don't ultimately matter all the time, right? Michigan's had some extremely good offensive linemen in the last several years who were not like high-end guys. Andrew Stuber, Andrew Vistardis. Heck, Oluwatimi wasn't even highly ranked as a recruit. Ryan Hayes was a 4-star, but he wasn't at the time of his commitment, I believe he was in like the 100s, and I think he ended up in the 200s or something like that, maybe even 3s. Carson Barnhart was not like a super highly rated dude. The only ones that really kind of were, and the ones like I mentioned yesterday, out of all of these linemen that Michigan's had that had Ohio State offers, were Trevor Keegan and Zach Zinter. And yet there have been 5+ other guys who have done a really good job. So in order to, and have been able to beat Ohio State. So in order to advance your narrative that you have to have an Ohio State offer in order to be better than Ohio State, it just doesn't track. Also looks like Sam and EJ have time for each other today as well. Which matchup would you prefer to see? I guess it's just a spicy Wednesday. I don't really, I'm not really going to touch that, but I would obviously rather see the football one of it all. Josh Barr at Jadicke was expecting to see some attrition through the portal after spring ball concluded, but it seems like guys are doubling down to fight for spots as no one has been jumping to leave. Do you get the vibe that the culture that is that strong now, because it seems like it from a distance? Well, I think there's still like another week or so with the transfer portal open. So I think things can still happen. But yeah, I do think that it's certainly stronger than it was when it felt like, okay, I'm not a starter, I'm out of here. After the transfer portal first opened. So the culture is very strong right now. I think it speaks to the togetherness, but certainly there have been guys who have left that you would maybe even, maybe not in the post-spring. Maybe it hasn't been quite as emphatic as it was right after the season when guys like Taylor Upshaw left, or I can't even remember. That's kind of a good sign. I don't think that you're going to lose anyone surprising like we've kind of seen in the past, which is kind of the good news when it comes to that as well. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. Michigan recruiting seems really good right now. Is that because of on-field success or the coaches recruiting at a higher level? Do you expect this class will finish top 5? I don't know if I'm there yet with the top 5. I mean, they need to finish strong. I think they need to get at least another 5-star in order to do that, maybe 2. They're certainly in on a couple guys, or at least they need to really load up on some of those others. But I think it's a mixture of everything. I think that they when we were complaining about 2023 collectively, they were really starting to put the groundwork in for 2024. Obviously Jaden Davis being a pinnacle of that, and some other guys, and it's starting to kind of come to fruition now. They need to be able to close with some high-end guys like a Dylan Stewart type, I think, or a Justin Scott who's visiting over the summer. Dylan Stewart's already visited. Close with a couple of those guys, and suddenly things are in really, really good shape. So it's that's, I think, a big part of it is being able to close. Could it finish top 5? Absolutely. Will it? They're the number 3 team in the nation, I believe, right now, behind Ohio State and Georgia. And but you need to be able to close on some more of those guys, and especially if you can do that at the defensive line, because that's really the only place that I see them probably getting those 5 stars are edge rusher and defensive tackle. Then I think they have a chance to finish top 5 for sure. But I would say top 10 for sure. Top 5, maybe they'll be around 5. I don't know who or what they'll necessarily end up getting there. Jimmy Whitner 1. What positions would you like to see us add through the portal? Defensive tackle, not because they necessarily need it, but just because there's a couple guys out there, Tywone Malone, Barry Alexander, that I would love to see them just continue to add depth there. Obviously, cornerback. There's no cornerback in the portal right now that I'd sit there and say, yeah, they absolutely need get this guy. But after kind of what happened with Amarian Walker in the spring game, I'd like just some insurance there. And then if they could get a top flight wide receiver, again, not a guy I think is going to necessarily be out there. I think that would pay dividends, but those would probably be the only 3 positions. Unless there was just a game-changing linebacker, which again, I don't believe that there is. There's no Henry Toto or Palai Gautiotti type guy in the portal at the moment. But if there was, then I'd say, yeah, by all means. But I mean, they already got the linebacker in Ernest Hausman. And I just don't know that there's anyone else out there that it's just like, yeah, go ahead and get that. Number 2, what would you say is the best Michigan sporting event you've attended? I mean, pick either of the last 2 Ohio State games, bar none. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. I just wish I was on the sidelines for the 2021 one, because that probably would have felt electric. But I was warm, so I guess I can't complain too much. But really, there's no comparison to those 2. Otherwise, they were probably all still Ohio State games, just losses. 2016, 2013 were amazing games, but losses. But it would be those. Although the 2006 Wisconsin game was pretty special, just for the sake of that was my first, and it was pretty amazing. But there's no other sport that I'd be like, yeah, that it's that one. The Big Ten championships were cool. The college football playoffs were cool. Probably be different if they would have won one of those playoff games. Finishing us out, because there's no Farmer 84 today, Jonathan Joseph at J Joseph 2156. What position do you think we will see the most transfer portal hits before the season starts? That's really difficult to really envision. I mean, offensive line wouldn't. I don't expect anybody, but I mean, that's just such a deep position group where I could see someone being like, yeah, I don't want to wait 3 years. But I don't think there's a specific position that I would sit there and look at and say, yeah, that's where they're going to lose maybe a bunch of guys. Safety, offensive line are 2 positions where guys are going to have to wait a bit, but I don't necessarily think they're going to lose anyone there. So I really don't know. All right, let's continue on here in just a moment. Something exciting is coming to Built.com on April 22nd. That's Saturday. I don't have all the details yet, but the excitement is real and it's something you want to miss. If you know how Built works, they have the most incredible protein bars in the world, and they do these amazing flavor drops with unreal flavors in limited quantity. So mark your calendars and head to Built.com on Saturday, April 22nd to be one of the first to discover what the hype is all about. I can't wait to see what this new flavor is, and that's pretty honest, actually. Make sure to use promo code LOCKDOWN15. You'll get 15% off of your order. All right, we are continuing onto the Victor's Valiant, starting with Jim at Jim in the North. What will they do for Mandalorian? It says Drain 4. I don't know what that means with Drain. And Din is a BA. As far I'm assuming you mean season 4. What will they do? I have no idea. Certainly the not no spoilers here, but it felt like they completed the story of the season. They didn't leave you on a cliffhanger or anything on the season finale of season 3. So I have no idea what they'll do. But you know what, like we saw with Boba Fett, they don't necessarily they aren't going to necessarily limit the story to his, because I'm sure if you went from season 3 season 2 to season 3 and didn't watch any of Boba Fett, you're probably like, wait, how, what? You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure what exactly they're going to do as far as that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit more, like if in the Ahsoka series or something that they have another storyline they introduce or something like that. Mark Z at Mark Zemke, if you were Aaron Scott and Bryce West, would you prefer to play corner at Ohio State and compete daily against NFL caliber wide receivers, or play at Michigan and likely get developed better and show your talent against those wide receivers on the biggest stage in football? I mean, you're not going to like this answer, but given where Ohio State has tended to put defensive backs in the draft, probably Ohio State, even though Michigan's shown now as far as that. I mean, they haven't had a cornerback go higher than the 3rd round in the Jim Harbaugh era. The only ones that have are Jordan Lewis in round 3, David Long in round 3, and I think that's it, right? As far as like the higher end ones, like Channing Stribling didn't get drafted. Jeremy Clark went in round 5, I believe. Didn't even really play. Lavert Hill didn't get drafted. We'll wait and see on DJ Turner and Jamon Green. Vincent Gray didn't get drafted. So, and wait, I'm missing one. Ambry Thomas got drafted in round 3. Whereas, Jeff Okudah and all of those other guys have been round 1 guys. So it's a little bit difficult to be like, yeah, I would clearly pick Michigan over Ohio State as far as that's concerned, because they get developed, but it hasn't paid off in NFL draft dividends as of yet. So I know you probably don't like that answer. Certainly Will Johnson can change some of that, but that's where they're at right now. Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore, is the pressure on Mel Tucker if they don't go at least 8-4 this year? I don't think he's probably under any pressure, because he has such a lofty contract that's all guaranteed that they're not going to fire him. So probably not. I think he's probably just sitting there being like, I am a career 5-7 coach, and I have the leeway to still kind of do what I want. But so no, I don't think that the pressure is on him. I think he's probably got at least 3 more years before they even consider getting rid of him. And he's just kind of in a very luxury position at the moment. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. If Ben Hall is running back 3, how much does he contribute this season, assuming Blake and Dono remain healthy? I think whoever is number 3 will probably get at least 5 carries a game, I think. And it might be Ben Hall, it might be CJ Stokes, it might be Khalil Mullings. It's really difficult to really figure out which one is which. I don't know if you can hear my phone. It's not even near me. It's in the other room, but it's going off. Yakety sax. That means my best friend Doug is calling. Anyway, Clark at Blue for Life 8. Why do you know why Papa Conte asked for the release from his NLI? I do believe it's academic related. So that's just what I've seen kind of in the Twitter sphere and message boards and stuff like that. So that I believe it is academics related, that it supposedly he hadn't qualified. Take it for what it's worth, but it appears to be the case. Anton Sesmita Mangala at Sesmita Mangala, if you could change anything about college football, conferences, rules, playoffs, etc., what would it be and why? I would probably make it so that then this is just off the top of my head, just spur of the moment here. I would probably make it so that the non-conference games there would be no, we would eliminate the neutral site non-conference games. Number 2, I would make there to be some kind of round robin in a similar vein as to what we see with like the interconference divisional games. So like you would have like different kinds of agreements, like a Big Ten SEC type thing, and maybe just have a home and home that just kind of rotates. So it's like, maybe it's not like set Big Ten SEC, but like, whoever is high, finishes highest in the playoff. Like, so like, you say like, all right, the SEC won, Big Ten had 2 teams or whatever. You work out something. So it's like, all right, Ohio State and Michigan, maybe like one of you has to play a Big 12 team because TCU beat Michigan, unfortunately. and one of you has to play an SEC team. Doesn't necessarily have to be the ones that, play the others. And it's going to be whoever SEC ranked whatever plays, everyone in the Big Ten plays this type of thing. And you have like that challenge. And then you just kind of roll through all of the conferences. So everyone has like a great premier matchup. And it's home and home. Because, I want to see Alabama or Georgia at the big house. I want to see Michigan at one of those, or like LSU or something like that. Find a way to make it so you have those, and they play home and home. Or even if it's a one-off at like Michigan at LSU, and then the next year it's, I don't want to say USC at Michigan because that's clearly going to happen in the near future, but something like that I think would be really cool. I would not expand the playoffs quite to the degree that they are. I would like it to remain relatively exclusive. So that would be the other thing, because there's something special about exclusivity. So James Kovalevsky at Coach_Kovo. I think it's interesting many stadiums are removing seats and replacing with common areas like party decks to cater to people more interested in the social aspect than the game itself. Does the tradition of Michigan Stadium make it immune to those changes? May they even add seats? Now, obviously, they removed some seats this offseason because of people touching coaches and other players. I don't know how much that's going to change things, to be honest, because I don't think that the seats they removed necessarily affect that too much. But I do think that, Michigan Stadium is built to add more. And no, I don't think that they're going to add anything extra to Michigan Stadium to increase the social aspect as long as they keep selling out. Now, if they go through some rough times or something like that, then certainly that's on the table. But yeah. Finishing us out in segment 2, Dan Walton at 3D Walton. Question 1, are you traveling with the team for any of their spring trip? Yes, I will be on the road for at least New York, D.C., and Gettysburg. And we'll see about the Ohio dates, because I have to get back for I have concert tickets for the last day. So it all depends on the schedule. So I have to find out what the schedule is a little bit better, and we'll figure it out. But I will be going with the team, so we'll see how that affects podcasting. Thankfully a lot of it is happening over the weekend, because otherwise I don't know. Sorry, we already know it's Dan Walton. Question 2, which musician do you wish you could have seen in concert who no longer actively tours? I think that one's probably easy. It would have been Alice in Chains in the Lane Staley era. I can't think of anyone else that, maybe like Led Zeppelin. Maybe I would have said like, yeah, if I could have seen at least Page and Plant back in the early 90s, that would have been pretty cool. But it would be Alice in Chains, I think, would be in the Lane Staley era, would be the one. All right, we're going to continue on. We have a few more left. Let's see how many. 5 left here coming up in a moment. All right, let's finish it out. 5 left. These are pretty good, actually, for our segment 3. Because, a lot of times we want to rapid fire them. They're just kind of, out there questions. These ones are all pretty substantial. So that's cool. Ben Ricketts at RickettsBen92. Who's been your favorite on-field and off-field coach to interact with since covering the team? So now I've got to really go back here. I will say I enjoy Chris Bryant still. We have our little inside jokes. I call him the unofficial team mascot. So there's him. So let's go back. Mike Zordich, in some ways, because he was really funny and not necessarily intending to be, but I think it's just his personality. Mike Zordich, also interview-wise, was amazing. Don Brown was amazing. I even like some of the interactions I've had with him off of the beaten path or whatever. Like I remember seeing him at a basketball game and was like, yeah, I just talked to this one guy and this one recruit, and he was just raving about you. And he goes, don't you know that I'm a hell of a guy? He was fun. I've always enjoyed Jay Harbaugh, especially in interviews. He's just so insightful and gets really deep into it. Tyrone Wheatley, who I haven't talked to in a little while, but like Tyrone Wheatley was always amazing. So basically what I'm telling you is I don't have like a favorite. I mean, it's George Hilo was fun. I was gonna say has been fun, but he's no longer with the program. I'm trying to think if there's anyone that there's probably a glaring omission that I just don't currently have. Just trying to think here. Who else would it be? I don't know. I think that pretty much covers the bulk of it. Josh Gaddis and I had some really good. I hated transcribing his press conferences because he spoke a mile a minute, but off field, I really enjoyed Josh Gaddis in a big way. Mike McDonald too. I didn't have a lot of off field with him, but I remember he texted me while I was at Cedar Point a couple of years ago, and he asked me something like, "Hey, I'm at Cedar Point. Can I get back to you?" He's like, "What are you doing talking to me then?" So that would be that. Leon Adams at LL Adams. Should we be concerned with Davis's ranking continue to drop? No, because it's not like Michigan's looking at his ranking and saying whatever. It's Michigan clearly wanted him. The Michigan wanting him is independent of 5-star ranking, right? But that said, how many times do I say it's not where you start, it's where you finish? People get way more excited about a recruit if they're a 5-star and they commit. Like, if Keon Sabb would have committed to Michigan straight away instead of Clemson when he was a 5-star, everyone would be still talking about Keon Sabb. Like, when is he going to get on the field? But because he was a 4-star at the time that he actually did commit and sign, he just kind of gets lost in the fray. Davis, even if he dropped to a 3-star, which is not going to happen, but if he dropped to a 3-star, everyone would still be excited about him to some degree because he committed at the time that he was a 5-star. You know? I'm not the one at William Cawthor 9. What do you think people get? Why do you think people get sucked in by the war of words on the net? I'm component of making you eat your words. Like when all of those people said Michigan had no chance against the Suckeyes, then we demolished them on their turf. That's when I got my laughs in. Because it's just especially in this desert that we currently are in for the big sports, you know, right? There's no football, there's no basketball, there's no hockey. It's really more interesting to have something that's happening, right? So as far as like why they do it, for remember, these are kids, number one. Number two, I feel like Ian Moore is just defending him and his squad's honor. It's just maybe not the smartest way to go about it, you know? Joshua Carlson at Josh WFF96. Rank and order the top 3 QB, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends of the Jim Harbaugh era. All right. I don't know if I'm going to do this in order because, it's not like I'm sitting out like, okay, I see this question. I need to really dig deep. We try to do these spur of the moment. Even though I've been warned against doing that because I want to give you my top of the head honest answers instead of anything else. But top 3 QBs, I mean, JJ, I think it would have to go JJ, Cade, Shea. I could see where people would get upset about Shea. Jake Rudock could be there. That's what I would have. And in that order, running backs, Blake Corum clearly is number 1. I'll go with Donovan, number 2, because I mean, it was his performance that really, helped make Michigan. But you know what? No, it's going to go Blake, Hassan Haskins, Donovan. I really wanted to say Karan Higdon in there, but that's what that would be. Wide receivers, Ronnie Bell, I think would be number 1, not just for his on field, but also off field. I will go with Nico Collins, number 2. We didn't really, I don't think, get to see the top end of him, but I would put him number 2. And number 3, I think I'm going to go with Amara Darboh. Tight ends, Jake Butt, clearly, number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go Luke Schoonmaker. I think that he was kind of underrated for what he was able to do. And then Sean McCune will be my number 3. So there you go. I actually managed to do it in that order. Finishing us out all together in the podcast, Darren with a question mark at D_Graham90. Any chance we see Alex Orji work his way into that backup QB conversation? Thought he looked pretty good in what limited time he had in the spring game. I don't think so, just because I think Jack Tuttle is a wealth of information and knowledge, and I think that he's probably ahead, and I think Davis Warren is just probably as well ahead a little bit. But I think that next year he'll be in, like, if there's no JJ, which again, I think that there's a good chance for JJ to return for his senior year. I think then maybe that can change. I think he very well could be in the conversation for being a starter the next year. But I mean, yeah, he's looked pretty good, but I think there's a reason why you didn't see him so late in the game. You know what I mean? All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Friday with the topic. We'll find out what that is closer to. And yeah, we'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. Peace.